Yeah, I have 7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll ask the city manager to please call the roll.
Councilmember David,
Present.
Councilmember Dean,
Here.
Councilmember Hamburg,
Here.
Councilmember Schmitz,
Present.
Councilmember Welch.
Present.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. So the next item is a reading by the city attorney. So Ms. Schrock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The request for a special city council meeting dated April 16th, 2025 begins as the Honorable Jim Benage, Mayor of the City of Bel Aire. We, the undersigned council members of the City of Bel Aire, Kansas, hereby respectfully request you to call a special meeting of the Bel Aire City Council to be held at the Bel Aire City Hall, 7651 East Central Park Avenue, Bel Aire, Kansas, on Tuesday, April 29th at 7 p.m. for the purpose of A, PEC to present their concept plan for the Woodlawn Roadway project. B, the governing body may request an executive session to discuss with legal counsel and receive legal advice related to pending litigation if needed. There were signatures from council members Greg David, Tyler Dean, Emily Hamburg, Tom Schmitz, pursuant to a request for a special council meeting dated April 16th, 2025, and signed by at least 3 members of the council. I hereby call a special meeting of the governing body of Bel Aire, Kansas, pursuant to Bel Aire City Code 2.1.5, to be held at the time, place, and purpose as specified in the above request, with a signature by Jim Benage, Mayor. Please know this is also posted on our website as well.
Thank you. Next item on item 4 is the new business. So we have PEC to present a concept for a Woodlawn Roadway project. Mr. Ben is here to, and his team is here to make a presentation. So it's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor, Council.
Is that mic on? Make sure that mic's on. You're speaking into it.
Yeah. Hear me now.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. So yes, Ben Mabry, PEC. I have here with me Jason Fundus, project manager on this project, and Bob Henthorn, our geotechnical engineering VP. Thanks for hosting us tonight. We'll try to make this pretty quick. As you may recall, we attended a meeting previously to report geotechnical findings on this project, Woodlawn from 37th to 45th. In that meeting, the main takeaways from that, as Bob presented, and he's here to answer any questions as well, was that we took samples, and those samples indicated a presence of the Wellington Shale Formation. That's an impermeable material, and it was found in some locations within 1 foot of the roadway base. So the subsurface water that goes through the ground in that area is moving along the top of that shale layer. So with those findings, we received recommendations to over-excavate that shale material, replace it with suitable material, and install an underdrain system to allow for subsurface drainage. And that's kind of the background that we shared previously. So now I'll hand it over to Jason. He's going to go through our concept plans for the improvements.
All right, thank you, Ben. So I'm going to start and just walk through the project along Woodlawn from the south at 37th and then work our way north to 45th. So I do have some pictures up here to kind of just go through that. So starting at the south section, we're looking at recommending a mill and overlay section where we would just repair the surface, and then we would add under drains approximately 3 feet behind the back of curb. This will only require adding the under drains and being very limited on the amount of pavement that we have to remove to put these in. So I'll start with the maps going through here, starting at 37th, and then just work our way north. So with the mill overlay section, we're looking to add under drains on both the east and west side. As I mentioned, approximately about 3 feet behind the back of curb. And then we also are showing to add an under drain across Woodlawn at the sump location or the low spot of the roadway.
Do you have a pointer?
Yeah.
Can you point out where those drains are, please?
So the drains are running, it's these darker lines on the outside here. on the east side and then on the west side. And then also looking at adding it across Woodlawn at the low spot of the roadway where the water would be the closest to the bottom of the roadway pavement throughout there.
Good, thank you.
So again, I'll just continue moving north. And again, it'll kind of get repetitive here. Same situation as we continue to move north. We'll get closer to the railroad tracks as we move. But again, just keeping them on the east and west sides, approximately 3 feet off the back curb. Again, you can see that they kind of split at the entrances and at the side roads. So we're not going through that pavement where we will not need to remove that. Again, just trying to be very less evasive of the pavement removal that we need through this section. And continue to move north. Again, the same thing. And now here we do show another location crossing Woodlawn. Again, that would be a low spot in the roadway that we're wanting to make sure we're collecting that subsurface drainage as it gets closer to the pavement area.
Ask a question. To the right,
Is your mic on?
no, it's not on. To the left of the first cross pavement, there's some white blocks.
To the left, like here.
Right there above where your pointer just turned off.
The ones going across the street?
Oh, right
Yeah,
here.
those two. What are those?
Those are dimensions. Those are
Just
just
dimensions,
dimensions of
okay.
the roadway width. And then the blocks running down throughout are 100-foot stationing.
Okay, sorry, but I did say I can't read any.
No,
of that.
you're fine. You're fine. So again, we'll continue
Mr.
moving
Mayor.
north. Here we're at the railroad tracks.
Yeah,
Again-
Mr. David?
Do you want questions as we go, or would you rather go through it and then we can ask questions?
I can certainly go through it, but I don't mind answering as we go
I'll let
through
you
as
go then.
well.
I'll save it.
So at the railroad tracks, again, just a mill and overlay. So just a surface pavement replacement. We do show again an under drain crossing just south of the railroad tracks. This is not a low spot, but we wanted to be sure to collect any drainage as we were getting closer to the railroad tracks, helping prevent any needs to be within the railroad right of way as we continue. So again, we'll have another one here on the north side of the tracks at a low spot in the roadway, and we'll be getting closer to where the reinforced concrete box goes underneath the roadway here. So again, the mill overlay section, we're looking to just go here towards Quail Ridge Street and stopping there with the mill overlay section before we start looking at more pavement removal and the extra excavation needed for that Weatherington shale.
So just a curious question. Did you have any of this shale between Quail Ridge and the railroad tracks?
We do have it there, but it's much deeper. So it's not as close to the roadway
Not
in
to the
that area.
roadway. Okay. About how deep is it? Do you know off the top of your head?
6 to 8 feet. Yeah,
Okay.
6 to 8 feet
Okay.
in this
Thank
section. So here at Quail Ridge Road or Quail Ridge Street is where we start to make the change. So I just want to kind of go over again, the asphalt mill and overlay section that we're proposing is just from 37th to Quail Ridge Street. Just the surface pavement would be the only thing being replaced, with exception of where we do cross the roadway for those drainage, subsurface drains we want to put in underneath the roadway. And then the under drains on the east and west side would be about 3 feet behind the back of curb. This will help eliminate a lot of the pavement removal in the area, keeping traffic moving as well through this area. And before we get into the next section. So as we move north from Quail Ridge Street to 45th, this is where what Ben was mentioning, the over excavation is needed. So about 2 additional feet of excavation underneath the roadway section to remove that Weatherington shale, coming back with a more suitable material. And then our under drains are much closer now, as we would, in order to do that excavation, we would need to remove the curb and gutter and the entire pavement section through this area. So this will be going from Quail Ridge Street up to 45th. So it'll kind of get repetitive here again, but I just wanted to show. So the break is here at Quail Ridge Street, or Quail Ridge Street, just on the north side is where we break the mill and overlay to the full replacement of the pavement. You can see that the under drains get much tighter to the roadway because we're right there at the back of curb now, or underneath the curb in spots. And then as we get to side road streets here, we're limiting the amount of removal that we need to do on every side road or every driveway as we go through as well. So, yeah, okay. So the reinforced concrete box that drains underneath Woodlawn is right here, which is kind of the break point from the mill and overlay to the full replacement. And then that box will continue to run down this eastern lane all the way up towards 45th.
Does that box jump at the culvert there where you have
Yes.
that's where it dumps into
Yes.
the streams? Okay.
And then the one other change that we've made in this area as well, we are still running under drain on both the east and west side. You'll see that we're continuing to run them on both sides of the box across the roadway. So as that water would drain towards the box, that box kind of creates a dam. So we want to be able to collect any of the subsurface drainage there and get it out. And then we'll also be doing it about every 300 feet as we move north throughout. And the reason for that is that Weathington Shale is much closer. We have to excavate that out. And so we want to be sure that we're collecting any of that subsurface drainage before it gets into the pavement section. So as we continue north, you can see additional crossings and you'll see it kind of stop short. That's because it's tying into that box that's running in that eastern lane. We're not going to run through the box. We'll just tie into the storm sewer box as we continue forward. And then again, as I mentioned, it's about every 300 feet that we're trying to add that under drain system in across Woodlawn. Again, running on the east and west sides as we approach 45th. And here we will come up towards that concrete pavement section at 45th here. So one thing I want to mention again with the full replacement section here, we are keeping it very tight to the roadway. So the only thing we will be removing is the curb and gutter and the pavement itself. We are not removing any of the utilities. The storm sewer system is all to remain in place. The existing reinforced concrete box that's running underneath the roadway is to remain in place. The sidewalks are all to remain in place. So everything will be very limited to pretty much in between the curb and gutters as we remove that section to add this under drain system, both under the roadway and on the east and west sides. And then-
Okay, and to be absolutely clear, we are removing all of the pavement that's there between Quail Ridge and 45th.
Yes, and that is because of the Weathington Shale being so
that you can-
close.
So that
we
you
need
can
to
get down
excavate
deep
that
enough to
out.
start over.
Correct.
Is the plan to remove enough for the 5-lane road? Because that was the original design concept that was supposed to be subsurface, was supposed to be adequate for a 5-lane road.
So the subsurface, I'll back up here.
And if I'm saying that wrong, I don't mean to say the rock and the pavement, but everything below that.
It would be excavated enough for the reconstruction of the roadway in its current configuration, the 3-lane section. But the under drain systems would be there so that you could tie into for future expansion. When you would deem to do future expansion, you would have to excavate that shale outside the limits that we are already excavated.
So we'll have to go back in there and excavate that out.
Yeah, you'll have to, if you're going to widen it, you'll have to redo that excavation just on those new additions.
Because the original concept, the design input was that we were not supposed to have to do that. No, not that we didn't know about that issue, but that we could go in there and just do a normal paving, rock base and paving and be able to do it without a lot of extra work. Okay.
You want to tie that specific work with the expansion of the roadway at that junction.
So when you would expand the roadway, that's where you'd want to make sure that you do have that over excavation for that expansion area.
Thank you.
I'm going to touch base here at the 45th intersection. Again, we want to be very careful in this area and be less invasive. So we're not looking to remove any pavement in the concrete intersection currently. We have under drains across the roadway before we get to the concrete roadway and on the north side as well, north of 45th Street. And then on the east side, we are recommending to add under drains on the north and south side of 45th Street, again, to be about 3 feet behind the back of curb, where we wouldn't be touching any of the pavement. We would just add them in and tie into the existing storm sewer structures that are there. And then on the west leg of the intersection, that project that's going on 45th Street is already looking to have under drains on that section of the roadway. So we weren't proposing anything there.
On the 45th Street west of the concrete, are we thinking we're going to rip all of that asphalt out to match it, or are we going to be able to leave some of it in? I asked that because it's failing where the new asphalt meets the old asphalt. I drove by there just yesterday and there's already a pothole there on the south side.
On the south side of the intersection or on the west
On the
side?
south side of the road, west of the intersection, where the new asphalt meets the old asphalt. So that's past the concrete, but it's still part of what we just rebuilt.
I'm not aware of us proposing anything west of this intersection. So if it is something, we can work with the city on that if we need to look at that.
Okay, I think that's probably something we should look at, because I remember at the time it was being built, even there was one hole there that got smashed down and they just put more asphalt over top of it. So I'm leery that it's going to fail in the future. So
So-
unless we're going to rebuild all that asphalt portion,
This is right at the interface of the asphalt and concrete,
it's that part west of there.
right where it transitions from asphalt to.
It's concrete, and then there's new asphalt, and then there's the old asphalt. The pothole I'm talking about is between the old asphalt and the new asphalt. And this, what I saw sink before was just west of the driveway into that business.
So
I think it was.
is this part of the Garver 47th Street project? Because I understood that there was going to be a tie-in to this, the Garver 47th Street project. Are we talking about that now?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out,
Yeah.
how much we're going to
So Ann might be able to clarify
undo
some
when
of
we
that.
do the 45th Street project, and whether or not we need to be concerned with what we've
Right.
got there now.
So this is strictly limited to Woodlawn and then 45th East. The 45th Street project that Garver is designing will include the under drains west of Woodlawn, as well as that tie-in. That is, we can certainly look with PEC at that location and either have our staff, or when we get this Woodlawn project kicked off, we can have the contractor fix that pothole at that time. But it's not intended to go west.
Okay, well, that's my concern, is we have, what, 200 or 300 feet of asphalt that we've put in.
That's all going to be replaced with the 45th Street project.
So
that's
the plan
forthcoming.
is to replace all of the
Yes.
new asphalt.
Yep, they'll go all the way up to the concrete.
Okay, that was my question.
And that's the 47th Street project. It won't be part of this
The
project.
45th.
Street.
45th.
Yes.
40, yeah, I said wrong. Okay, yeah.
We're
45th.
living in
It's been a
South
day.
I
Wichita
get,
somewhere.
I'll try to stay in the right place.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, thank you for clarifying
Yeah,
that.
you're welcome.
Thanks.
So I'll kind of hand it back over to Ben and let him talk about next steps unless there's more questions about the maps up here.
Yeah, I had a question
Yes.
just on the part south of Quail Ridge where it's mill and overlay. You said mill and overlay, but then you also said minimize mill and overlay to just put in the drains.
So
is it
it'd be
the whole
minimized
street?
full pavement replacement to put in the drains.
Okay,
So I can back up here a few slides to that section. So for the most part, we would just be mill and overlay the roadway itself, but where we have crossings, we would look to do localized patching because we want to put this under drain across Woodlawn above the storm sewer pipe that is there underground now, but we'd want to get that under drain below the pavement section. So below the rock layer that's there now. So we would have a very localized patching crossing just to put that under drain in.
okay. And the under drains further north, do they go under the box?
No, they're not under the box. They would tie into the side of the box. So I'll
So
jump
like
to
you have
this.
to drill through the box?
So
and-
yeah, roughly the under drains are roughly about 3 feet below the pavement section is where we're wanting to put them. So it'd be right there at the bottom of where we would over excavate. And then the box is much lower.
And then you actually drill into the box and run them into
It'd be
the
like,
box.
it's going to be like a weep drain. That would be about anywhere from probably 6 inches to 8-inch diameter pipe.
Okay. And maybe you'll elaborate more on the whole geotechnical study and how you optimized, like you said, you only are going to mill and overlay the
Mhm.
south part. Maybe you or someone can elaborate on how you got that optimized just right so that you made sure you took care of the shale problem, but didn't
Yeah,
over-
yeah, I can either
design.
myself or Bob can speak on that. We had multiple pavement cores and borings through that section there where we could see that Wellington shale was much deeper. So we had suitable material in between to transport that groundwater that we're seeing there in those locations. So we're not seeing the groundwater stay as high as it does after rain events and drainage, or after even the snow melts that we had here this winter. We would see that water come up, but it would also reside a little bit faster. So we're not seeing the water staying within the pavement section in that area for the longevity that we're seeing on the northern section.
And is it like a stair step or a gradual increase at Quail Ridge? We're making that the dividing line, it seems.
Well, the big dividing line there is everything kind of south of that drainage. We are seeing it that to be lower, but on the north side, it is much higher.
Quail Ridge is a natural low spot in the whole
Right.
project.
When you talk about over excavation north of Quail Ridge,
Mhm.
what will you replace after you do the over excavation? What kind of material will go in to replace the shale?
It would be a suitable fill material, so it could be of a dirt or sand mix that meets the criteria for compaction underneath the roadway.
I actually also have a question just for folks that are listening and trying to understand the under drains. Can you kind of explain why those go in and how those will function going forward?
Certainly. So I'm going to jump back to a map here. Jump forward to a map here. So the idea of the under drain system is to be underneath the roadway. So as water starts to rise, it will be collected in this pipe and give that water a location to escape, for a better terms, rather than continuing upward into the rock underneath the pavement or within the pavement section itself. So with that, the under drain systems will be sloped to drain naturally about 1%, and then tie into the existing storm sewer structures and just help get that drainage water back to the channel that's already there.
Thank you.
And those drains are like my basement tiles.
Very
they're
similar,
porous
yes. Yep, very similar. It's to help reduce that pressure and relieve that water. I want to say viscosity, Bob. I don't know if that's the right word or not, but
Basically it gives us a path of least resistance. Because the sand and the underground material are wrapped in a geotextile with the perforated pipe inside of it. So it creates a lot easier path for the water to get into the pipe and out versus trying to come through the soils.
We don't get any weird definition problems that it's not surface water since we're dumping it into a storm drain.
Well, a little bit of both.
As long as we don't get running to the EPA or somebody else because we're taking subsurface water and putting it, is what I'm asking.
I've never ran into that problem before, but
Okay, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know anything about it. I've never run into it either.
And then I had one more. Can you kind of explain what the difference was with the area south of Quail Ridge that led you to make the recommendation specifically to just do the mill and overlay with adding the under drains versus the section that needs full replacement? What was the kind of some of the specific things you were seeing that led you to make that recommendation?
so the specific things we were seeing was really the location of the Wethington Shale, that we're seeing it much closer north of Quail Ridge, where it's already right there in some areas within a foot of the pavement section that's there today. Whereas south, it is much lower. So we have, I don't know the better way to say it, Bob, probably that it doesn't swell as much. And so there's room for that Wethington Shale to expand and contract before it actually starts affecting the pavement section.
And then have your tests kind of proven that out as far as the condition of the existing pavement south of Quail Ridge?
Yeah, we are seeing the pavement sections holding up better south of Quail Ridge, which I think everybody can see just driving out there today too, that you see that pavement section is holding better. One recommendation for the mill and overlay was we're going to see construction equipment to tear out the remainder north of Quail Ridge. So adding that mill overlay to the south section to be kind of finished and complete the job as one final project. That'll help keep the maintenance of the roadway all on one cycle. It'll help give a finished product as well, and just help the overall lifespan of the entire section of the roadway.
Yeah, that rolls into my question about that. So the sole reason, if you weren't going to have construction traffic on it and just to kind of match everything up, would you not really touch south of Quail Ridge except for the reasons you've just given?
I would stand by our recommendation on it. We are seeing that top layer is falling apart in areas already due to the water that is getting into the pavement section in that area currently without the underdrain system.
Okay.
And so, again, I think we recommend a two mill and overlay that area as well.
Gotcha.
Another factor there is that we're
Can you come to the microphone,
Yeah,
please?
Another factor there in the locations of the under drains across the road. So those are going to be patches in the roadway. And so on the surface of the street, you want that pavement layer to all be one layer of pavement. And that helps solve that issue too. Otherwise, it's going to be a patch and you got an opportunity for water to infiltrate the road at the two cracks of the patch. Does that make sense? So.
Yeah, I think there also were some places where the asphalt wasn't quite thick enough. Wasn't that the case south of the railroad tracks?
We have a number of borings. There's variable thicknesses.
Yeah, I don't remember a thin section south of the tracks.
Well, I guess it depends on how thin you're worried about. I know there's some places along there where it didn't quite come up as high as the curb, and it may only be a quarter inch. I don't know if that's important enough, but it wasn't exactly level when they finished it.
Well, I'll hand it back over to Ben and he can start talking about some of the next steps with this project.
Yeah, so next steps, we did talk recently, I believe, was that last week? Last week, we had a call with KDOT. Ted and Ann were on that call as well, but working through and trying to understand what the next steps would be in taking this project to construction. So we have a good understanding of that. We still need to work through some of the finer details there. So working with KDOT on that. That plan is going to involve construction documents. So taking this concept to a construction document level. And the next step with that is taking those plans and then getting pricing based on those documents. And that essentially will complete the engineering design portion. We're going to continue to work with KDOT staff. City staff will be involved every step of the way and expedite as much as we can the process for getting this to construction. That's our plan.
So I've mentioned to our city manager that I'd like to see a more robust design build type concept so you can get some concurrency of construction and design at the same time. Are we having any discussions like that with any of the stakeholders?
Yes, that has been discussed. We have not initiated any discussions with contractors yet.
Mm-hmm.
But that is part of the plan is to do that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'm just spitballing here, but I think we probably say six months to a year taken out of the timeline to do this project if we can do that. But I'd like to see how we can do that if that's possible. Any other questions or concerns or comments?
I've got one question. I'm not sure if it's valid here or not. Is there any way to guesstimate how long that construction project might take? Is it a 6-month project, a year project? And I know
There
it's not
is a
30
way
days.
to guesstimate. I don't know that we've gotten that far along yet, but we can certainly provide an update on that once we.
Okay. I just know all of our citizens wanted it fixed last month, not next month.
Yeah.
Ben, can you speak to how long construction documents might take?
Our process, we're expecting to take approximately 3 months. We would like to allow somewhere between 3 and 6 months for the total process. Obviously, we have other stakeholders involved here, including KDOT and the contractor and understanding that process. I agree with the mayor. I think there's hopefully a better way to expedite that. And so, yeah, I would really hope we could get through the process at a maximum of 6 months.
That would be 6 months until we got a quote for or bid for the project, or
I think we would have information about that before then, but before they start construction. I think that's a
So
fair
just,
estimate.
just to be clear on my experience, and I don't have a lot of experience. I've only done one project with the design build. Okay. So that's not saying I got a lot of history here, but my experience is that you don't actually have a firm bid. You have a price that you put out there and say, this is the price we're going to work towards. And we're all going to go to work and try to meet that price point. So it's not a firm bid because you don't have a complete design to bid against. Okay. So that's been my experience. I don't know if that will fly. Okay. But
Understand. Yeah, and I think part of what comes into play there is it more important to get it done quickly versus the cost of it, and those things may play a little bit against each other.
yeah, there's
So-
some of that. Definitely.
Ben, just one final question. Have you guys thought through, as you would proceed with design, what traffic flow might look like? Is it going to be pretty similar to the last one where we have one lane, one direction? I think that would be interesting to know kind of what you see that looking like,
Yeah,
because that'll certainly impact schedule.
I'll let Jason chime in here too, but our initial discussions and our understanding, not really having been involved with the previous project, is that there were some things that could be improved upon, and we would look for opportunities, hopefully, with the contractor involved, that could help facilitate that and make it a better situation. But our understanding to this point is that we would need to maintain at least one lane of traffic, one direction of traffic through construction.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments, concerns? That's all you have to present. Thank you very much. We
All right.
appreciate the thorough report and the detail. It tells us a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
So item 5 on the agenda is executive session, and we'd like to ask for 20 minutes.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. David.
motion to recess into executive session to discuss with legal counsel and receive legal advice related to pending litigation. Discussion will be pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2 for legal consultation with Neil Gosh, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. Invite the city manager, city engineer, city attorney, and Catherine Klumsky. Meeting will be for a period of 20 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at 7:53.
Second.
Motion by Mr. David, a second by Mr. Welch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries 5-0. We're in executive session for 20 minutes. We'll call the meeting back to order. We held an executive session and no binding action was taken. And we're ready to move on to item 6, adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Welch, second by Mr. Dean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Too bad. That motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned. See everybody in next Tuesday.
All right.